Hello, and thank you for joining us. This is No Soundbites Allowed, and I am your host, Michael Voss, Dragon of the Southern Tier. I'm happy to be here with you today as we're going to be talking about something interesting. Something that some will find humorous, others will find it curious, but overall, something that I think is worth talking about. Now, normally on this channel, we work with the facts at hand and we make our conclusions based on those facts. But sometimes we need to step a little bit further out. We need to ask a question and just speculate what could be the answer. Make our predictions about what we could see in the future. Now, this is 2022. There are midterm elections that will be happening this November. Within days, if not weeks of this video, you will be hearing many people will be making announcements that they wish to run for local, state, and federal elections. So, with that in mind, we wanted to speculate about who might run for the U.S. Senate. We wanted to speculate what are their chances of winning? Could they beat an incumbent? We're going to go over that with you, and I'm sure the title gave you an idea of who we're speaking about, but we're going to address that in a little more detail in just a second. But before we do, we want to mention that if this is the first time that you are seeing the channel, we want to welcome you and thank you for joining us. We want you to know that we do long-form political commentary. And every Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we do a live stream with you. We reach out on all the social media that the internet overlords will allow to hear your voice, to hear your comments, your tweets, your chats, and your phone calls from anywhere in the world to speak about the issues that matter to you, that are affecting you, no matter where in the world you may be. And we invite you to join us every Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time because we believe in free speech. We believe in your unalienable right to be able to speak freely. Your government may not agree, the internet overlords certainly don't agree, but we respect your voice and we want to hear you every Sunday. Now, with that said, I do want to go forward and say, okay, we're going to be talking about the Senate races. There's a race in 2022 in New York State for Senator Charles Schumer. There's also a race in 2024, which will be a presidential year, for the junior senator of New York, Kirsten Gillibrand. And a lot of people are wondering about these races. Obviously, every year, whenever there's a midterm or a presidential year, a lot of people come out to run for various offices. There's always lots of speculation. And in this case, the speculation involves a certain Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the representative of the New York 14th District at this moment. Redistricting will be announced very shortly. It will change many things in New York State. But Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is the big question. She's a very popular person. She has a very unique personality, perfectly fit for Twitter and social media. She's not a very good congresswoman. That's just a fact. And we'll get into those facts in just a moment. But a lot of younger people, millennials and Gen Z, Gen X and Gen Z, are looking at her and saying, is she someone who can go even further? Could she be president one day? We've heard this since the first day that she actually came onto the scene and took everyone by surprise, along with the resurgence of the Democratic Socialist Party. Within the Democratic Party, a splinter fringe, but yet something that has grown exponentially. In fact, with her appearance, they have the Democratic Socialists of America, which have been around since 1972 in one form or another, now have revisioned themselves as a young party full of energy and promoting socialism at every turn. And it's Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez who's recently seen in Florida. And that brought up a lot of speculation. And you can see this. It was 2 days ago, January 1st, January 1st of 2022, when we saw this being reported. It was reported in the Daily Mail, as well as most media, that as New York State is suffering from the pandemic and the latest variant of the pandemic, she went down to Florida, decided to enjoy herself without a mask, and to have a martini or two. Good for her. But the question is, why is a New York State representative in Florida, a state that very much is not like New York, a state that doesn't believe in the mandates of a mask or the mandates of a vaccine, a state that has refuted and been the proof that following the draconian methods that are suggested and being shoved down the throats of the American people by the Biden-Harris administration, by former disgraced Governor Andrew Cuomo and now appointed Governor Kathy Hochul, that there is an alternative. Why would she go to Florida? I know I was having this conversation with one of my associates, a friend from out on the West Coast, who was speaking with me about this and asked, well, what do you think this is about? Because they've heard some rumors. And the question I had to ask, I thought about it and said, well, why would she go to Florida for a vacation? She would go to the Bahamas. That's more likely, or maybe even to the West Coast, to California or to Hawaii. But that brought back some memories for my associates and myself, that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has wanted to be president. And to be able to be president takes more than just a really good Twitter feed. It takes more than a good Instagram feed. It takes success, or the impression of success, in Congress. And most importantly, you need to be a senator. You really, really need to be a senator if you expect to win a presidential race. So, with that known, how is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez going to be a senator? How would she get that seat so that she would be able to run? She could take on Chuck Schumer. She could take on Kirsten Gillibrand. Or she could just try and run, but no one thinks that that would be a good idea. In fact, everyone knows that would be a bad idea. And at the same time that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is in Florida, you may have also saw, or maybe you missed, this news announcement about Senator Kirsten Gillibrand. Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, one of her ex-staffers, so let's take this with a pound of salt, has stated that Senator Kirsten Gillibrand would lose in a race against Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, a Democratic primary in New York, that AOC would win. And in fact, that Kirsten Gillibrand probably doesn't want to run, that she's done. She's tired of being the yes woman of the Democratic Party, and that she's failed. Her political career crumbled before her face as she ran for president and laughably did horrible. So the question comes up, is that the target? Is this actually going to happen? Would Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez go from the New York 14th District to the New York Senate, or as a representative of the New York Senate, and then go on to try and run for president? Could we see that happen? Let's walk through this. Let's try and understand this, because it's not enough to hear a ex-staffer, someone who may not be very happy with Kirsten Gillibrand, somebody who may want to make her look weak and embarrass her. So that's not enough of an answer. What's really happening here? Now, we have been following both Kirsten Gillibrand and Chuck Schumer for many years. In fact, all 10 years that we've been on YouTube, we have been talking about both of these individuals and their careers, what they have done and what they have failed to do in politics. And let's take the case of Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer. Throw that out the window. That would be in 2022. Literally, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez would have to make the announcement within the next week and a half. A week and a half, she would have to make an announcement and say that she wants to run against Chuck Schumer. She would have to give up her seat. She could not run for her representative seat and for the Senate at the same time. She would only have to pick one. And so she would have to give up being a congresswoman to run to be a senator. And the big thing there is, would she even do that? Absolutely not. Chuck Schumer has $31 million in hand at this moment. That's a huge treasure trove of cash to be used for a campaign. This comes from Open Secrets. And we can see that one of his biggest contributors, besides the Blackstone Group, which is Wall Street, Paul Weiss et al., which is a huge Democratic donor. We see that throughout all of New York for many Democrats. But the big name here is Alphabet. Google. Google, almost $167,000. And that's coming from the $31 million for Chuck Schumer. There is no way that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez could take on that. Chuck Schumer could raise up to about $50 million to protect himself in a race. That's enormous. And that's difficult for any Republican, let alone any Democratic challenger, to try and take on. And as the Senate Majority Leader for Democrats, he's virtually untouchable. It's a position that has him very secure unless a massive mistake took place. So throw out Chuck Schumer. That's not an option. 2022 is not an option. But again, it comes to, so why was Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez down in Florida? Now, Kirsten Gillibrand, we followed her for a long time on this channel back in 2010. I know the video quality is not that good. It was 2010, 12 years ago. Please forgive me for this. 4 questions, one of which being, have you read the health care reform bill that you are voting on? Why is it that the response that you send back to your constituents and to the media is a verbatim answer of an answer from September of 2009 that does not address a single of the questions that you were asked either in August or in February, nor does it deal with the most simple of questions, have you read the bill? Okay. Now, mind you, I know the video recording, not the best of quality. I know the audio didn't have the mics back then, didn't have all the equipment that I've since gotten over the last 12 years. Fair enough. And I was a lot less gray. But there's a question that's being said there. In 2009, we saw that Kirsten Gillibrand was appointed to replace Hillary Clinton as a senator for New York State. And Kirsten Gillibrand, when she took that position, reversed her previous positions. She went from being an advocate of the Second Amendment to not really being an advocate at all. She flipped to become the yes woman for the Democratic Party and the cheerleader for Chuck Schumer. And that's where she's pretty much stayed. She really hasn't done much else. And she wasn't very good back in 2010 as a member of Congress. As you can see, when we were talking about it, we've sent her emails and letters asking for responses to issues. At that time, Obamacare, asking her if she had read the bill. And we got a boilerplate answer. In fact, the same duplicated boilerplate answer over and over again. Today, of course, 12 years later, Kirsten Gillibrand and her staff won't respond to us at all, even though we're constituents. We live in New York State, as well as we work in New York State. But her staff know my name. They know this channel, and they refuse to respond to us anymore, which is a bit sad. So in 2010, she was inept at her job, but yet she was a yes woman, and she had all the accolades from the Democratic Party. And people still had questions, because then she went on to run for Congress, for the presidency in 2020, after making promises to the public. And this is important. She made a promise to the public in 2018 that she was going to run for Senate. And as long as she won, she was going to stay the entire 6 years. I want you to think about what happened in 2019. It was March of 2019 when we were covering Kirsten Gillibrand, and we happened to mention this. We see that Kirsten Gillibrand
is not really very clear about who and what she is. I mean, if you look recently, just doing a quick Google search on her, you're going to see a whole lot of things. You're talking about how she wants to talk about giving Social Security to illegal immigrants. She's talking about a path to citizenship. She's talking about being an illegal alien is not, no human can be illegal. I mean, it's a lot of rhetoric out there. But something that a lot of people don't seem to think about her is Senator Kirsten Gillibrand isn't any of these things that she puts out, or at least that we can't have real confidence in the fact that what she says today is what she really believes. She's a bit of a chameleon. Now, you can go back to just 2018 and you can see an example of this. Kirsten Gillibrand very famously was on TV, was in a debate, and at the time she mentioned directly to looking into the camera, saying to the people of New York State that she would fulfill her 6-year term as a senator if she were reelected. About a week after the election, she then turned around and went up to New Hampshire and started or continued to have her presidential bid. So she had no intention of living up to her word, and she lied to the public on TV.
That's it. Wow, in 2019, Kirsten Gillibrand had already moved on. She had lied to her constituents. She lied to the people of New York State. She lied to the United States nation, saying she wouldn't do something that she absolutely was doing and then went on to do. And we remember that back in March of 2019. In fact, many Democrats remember that, and that's why her campaign went nowhere. She did horribly. And she was miserably embarrassed in her run for the presidency. Miserably embarrassed. And she failed. But that took the wind out of her sails because she was a yes woman and she was well liked by many Democrats at that time, right up until the moment she decided to run. Right up until the moment when her friends and colleagues begged her to stop. The answer is, well, of course, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is going to go up against Kirsten Gillibrand in 2024. Okay, fine. That's quite possible because Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez needs to be a senator to be able to run for president. She needs that on her pedigree. She needs that clout and that, well, reassurance of her credibility. Because Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has no credibility. She's known on Twitter and Instagram, but she's not known for actually doing anything. She's not a successful or competent member of Congress. She's not even a very competent representative for the Democratic Socialists of America. She's more of a joke overall by many, many sources. But she's popular. And some would say, well, being popular is all you need. The presidency is a popularity contest. In fact, that was something one of my friends was speaking about. He said, well, Mike, isn't popularity just enough? Wouldn't that be enough for her to get across the line? Well, let's take a look at this. Because also in 2019, we see that the New York Magazine was talking about this. This is a Democratic site, City and State, New York. And they say Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez passed on running for New York City mayor. And she could challenge Senator Schumer or Senator Gillibrand. How would she do if she went up against these lawmakers? This was in January of 2020. January 2020. Now, to start off with this, let's understand very clearly. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez didn't run for mayor of New York City because it's a dead end. You don't go from mayor of New York City to president of the United States. It's a very difficult process to do that. Very few people have been able to make that. You could say governor of New York. There are many governors who went on to become presidents, but there are very few people who are mayor of any city that were able to successfully have a campaign. It really doesn't work. It's not a big enough position. And Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez no matter her flaws, is politically astute. She knows that just won't happen. So the question comes, what is she going to do? What would she do? Well, that's a good question. How would she do? According to 2019 Democratic strategists, the Democratic Party, how do they think she would have fared? What was her popularity? Well, when we look at it, we see that, again, this is coming from the Democratic Party. Todd Medina is speaking that Quinnipiac, University poll from January of 2019 said that Senator Schumer had a 52% approval rating. At the time, Senator Gillibrand had a 46% approval rating. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, 34%. Not nearly enough. And we had similar numbers from Siena College. So it's not enough for Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And even though Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has been fundraising like crazy, she's nowhere near the capabilities of Senator Schumer. Not even close. And we've already shown you how much money that he has on hand right now. But I want you to be aware. That makes the race against Kirsten Gillibrand a little bit more realistic, but that's because of the left. Kirsten Gillibrand went all the way to the left to try and win the presidency in 2020. She failed. But she is now aligned with the left. She has put herself into that seat to be with the fringe of the Democratic Party, with the Democratic Socialists. That's who she was trying to appeal to, the younger youth of the party. But that's where Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez sits as queen. She runs that. So in a face-off amongst far leftists, amongst Democratic Socialists, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez absolutely wins that race. But even the Democrats realize that's not enough. Winning over leftists isn't all that's required to win a statewide election, according to Robert Yale Shapiro, a political science professor at Columbia University. Quote, "A lot depends on the 2020 election regarding the direction of the Democratic and national politics take. If a liberal wing victory year, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez could have a shot, but in a general, she might do well to build up her reputation as a member of Congress and wait a bit longer. Because the cautionary note is she could win a primary, but she would be vulnerable to moderate Republicans in a general election." Democrats themselves know what the problem is. There is no way that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez could run against Chuck Schumer. Just not going to happen. Again, he's got almost $32 million sitting ready to go, and he can raise more at the drop of a hat. He is the Senate Majority Leader. There is no way they're going to risk his position for Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Not going to happen, especially in 2022, where so much is riding. Democrats are desperately looking for any kind of success right now to pin their hopes on after the failures of Afghanistan, inflation for the common person actually being in the double digits, more taxes, deflation, devaluing the dollar, international strife with China and Russia, ignoring the United States and literally laughing in the face of Joe Biden, and Kamala Harris being completely absent from politics, especially in the southern border, where 1.5 million illegal aliens just crossed into the United States, virtually unobstructed. That's not a year where you say, let's take a risk, let's run with it, and see how this Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez does in the Senate, where she would be a junior member and have none of the power or prestige that Chuck Schumer holds. That is just not going to happen. So again to Kirsten Gillibrand, we have to ask that question. What about Kirsten Gillibrand? How much money does she have in hand? $2.7 million. That's it. $2.7 million. That is less than 1/10 the money that we see with Chuck Schumer. And by the way, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has $5.7, almost $6 million at this moment. Almost $6 million compared to the $2.7 million for Kirsten Gillibrand. One of the big names and one of the big things to keep in mind here is when you're looking at the money that's coming to Kirsten Gillibrand, Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, you know there's a name that's not here. Yes, Paul Weiss, all the Democrats have this, all the big names. Not a big deal. Yes, there are members of the stock market that are being represented here. That's not a big deal. And lawyers. That's not important. What is important is that you're not seeing this. Google. The number one supporter of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is Google. The number 4 contributor to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is Amazon, the internet overlords. Now, mind you, the fact that they have a combined amount of $18,000 is laughable compared to the almost $169,000 given from Google to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, to Chuck Schumer, as you can see. But it is important to know that Kirsten Gillibrand isn't getting any of that money. Now, this is a little bit of a reach, but let's understand. Google controls algorithms, how you search and find information. They make it harder for certain things to be found and easier to find other things. When they like something, they make it easier for you to find it. And when they don't like something, they make it virtually disappear. Kirsten Gillibrand isn't on the top list for Google. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is. Chuck Schumer is. That's an important and impressive ally. And Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez can count Amazon in her favorites list, where Kirsten Gillibrand can't. And already we know Kirsten Gillibrand has half as much money. Money means everything in politics, especially when we're talking about Senate races and congressional races. It's all about the money. You have to convince people that you're a good person. You need a good slogan. You need a good ad. Otherwise, people won't know that you're a good candidate. That's modern day politics. That's definitely the Democratic politics, because the Democratic Party runs off of how you feel. They're all about feelings. That's their number one issue. Remember Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez speaking on 60 Minutes, talking about feelings are more important than the truth. We've covered that on this program many times. She said it. You can look it up for yourself. Well, how popular is Kirsten Gillibrand and how popular is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez? Well, the answer very simply is looking at the youth of America, because we're talking about 2024. So the polling that you can go from Quinnipiac or Siena polling or other polls, Marist, that's not really important. We need to see where are the youth today, and in the next 2 years to the next 4 years, where will they be then? Because that's the important thing. Because kids who are 16 today on Instagram, on YouTube, Twitter, who are out there, they're going to become voters in 2024, on top of the ones that are now using social media and now are voters. That voting base is growing by day by day. And if we're talking about a race of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez versus Kirsten Gillibrand, we have to know what are the youth saying, because they may be underage today, but they're going to be voting age in 2024. So this is your target market. And what is going on with them? So I want to go to YouGov YouGov and their polling to see Kirsten Gillibrand. She is ranked 41 out of the top Democrats in the United States. 41. 59 out of the top Democratic politicians. That's pretty low. She is famous. The youth of America do know her name, 62% recognition of her name, but she's only liked by 25%. 25%. And disliked by 19%. That's huge. And when we look at the millennials, Gen X, and the baby boomers, her best number is 31% approval. She overwhelmingly, almost double, if not 2 or 3 to 1, nobody likes her. And her biggest voting bloc at this moment are the baby boomers. And it's almost 3 to 1 against Kirsten Gillibrand. That's huge. That is a stumbling block. She's known for being very bad. What about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez? What does YouGov say there? Well, YouGov says that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, well, she's 84% name recognition. That is impressive. Everybody knows who this woman is. And popularity, 45%. 45. Disliked by 26%, more than with Kirsten Gillibrand, but she has more people who like her as well. She's ranked number 7 among Democrats and number 8 amongst politicians. She's above Hillary Clinton and only 2 steps below Kamala Harris. That is an impressive position to be able to hold as a mere representative in Congress. And looking at the millennials, Gen X, they're the voters that are going to be making the decision in 2024. And, well, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has almost 50% of them. Baby boomers? No, not so much. She's at 34%, but that's still better than what Kirsten Gillibrand is doing. One other thing that I think is worth mentioning, so that you have a full understanding of what's going on here. Their records. Their records in Congress. What have they done, and have they done it well? I mean, almost no one talks about this. No one pays attention to this unless you're looking at the slogans that come out for the ads for whatever campaign, every election cycle. Then you'll always pick 1 or 2 things that they're like, yeah, I did this. It's really, really great. But if you're looking at everything, you'll see that overall, Kirsten Gillibrand has introduced 415 bills. 415 bills since 2009 when she was appointed, and not elected, appointed into the Senate in New York State. And in that time, she had one bill that was actually passed by the president. She named a post office. Let me say that again. She had 415 bills that she introduced into Congress. She had one bill signed by the president, any president, since 2009. About the only one who's worse than her is Hillary Clinton in terms of her record. It's embarrassing. Just one bill signed, and it was naming a post office. That's about as useless as you get. But let's look at Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She's been around for a lot less time, but what has she done? She's had 32 bills that she has introduced into Congress. And she's gotten nothing done. She hasn't even named a post office. So it would seem naming a post office is actually kind of hard because Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez can't even do that. And the very biggest thing that she is known for is the very first thing she did, which is back in 2019 when she tried to get the Green New Deal passed, and everyone laughed at her. It went nowhere. In fact, not a single bill that she has presented has had any chance or hope of passing. So I brought all this together so that you have a very clear picture of the prediction that we're going to be making. I want you to understand in terms of finance, in terms of effectiveness, in terms of popularity. Let's really understand what's going on. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez wants to be president. She is very ambitious, which is not a negative trait for a politician, but she's also very, very ineffective. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez can't get anything done. She's no good at anything that she proposes, and she proposes some of the most preposterous ideas ever made, unless you think that you're going to be able to put a bridge, a railroad between California and Hawaii in the middle of the Pacific. I mean, if you think that's something that's realistic, you probably think the earth is flat as well. My answer is that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez realizes that whether it's because Kirsten Gillibrand is tired, whether she's embarrassed, or whether she's just politically weak, it's her opportunity. She can run in 2024 and take out Kirsten Gillibrand, because that will be a fight amongst Democrats in a Democrat state. It's blue against blue in blue. She could win that. It is quite possible she could win that. Even though Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is pretty much hated by Republicans and most libertarians that I've spoken to, even though she's not respected, she is popular. And she's popular with the youth. College students will come out and vote for her, especially in a presidential year. Now, AOC has a shot, and she needs to be senator to be able to be president, which is the ultimate goal. And she can't get there without that Senate seat. So why is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez spending the beginning of 2022 when she should be getting money and getting ready for her re-election campaign in New York State, and instead is in Florida? It's not because she wants the sunshine. It's not because she wants to have a maskless suntan. She's trolling and trying to grab up all of the donors that Kirsten Gillibrand has. The people who aren't Amazon and Google. No, she's trying to go for the rank and file people. The people who are the snowbirds that go from Florida to New York City that are critical to New York politics. She went down to Miami to go and get a voter base. And they would be critical to her being actually able to win in 2024 and possibly giving her a shot in 2028, where she would still be young and theoretically viable. I know I went the long way around to do this, but that's what we do on this channel. We look at all the details because it's easy and quick to say, well, Alexandria is going to run. Really? Why? When someone says, well, of course she's going to run for it. Okay, how do you know? If Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is going after Kirsten Gillibrand, that means in 2022, for the midterm elections, AOC is going to turn up the rhetoric. At the same time, somewhere between January and November, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is going to try and pass a bill, something that is a solidly socialist bill that is going to be backed by the Democratic Party. She needs to put out something that Nancy Pelosi will love. Does that mean that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is going to become a moderate? No. There's going to be some games that are going to be played amongst the Democratic Party, amongst the members of Congress, and that's going to have an impact in 2023 when Kamala Harris takes over for Joe Biden and then decides that she's going to run in 2024 for president. You may see in the next year that Kamala Harris, who is desperately looking to try and improve her popularity with the American public, and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has popularity. It's the only thing that she has that she can wield as a weapon. Kamala Harris needs that. Whether she wants to retire or whether she's going to be forced out of it doesn't really matter. Kirsten Gillibrand is no longer a factor. Being a yes woman isn't enough. It won't protect her. They need new blood in the Democratic Party, and they need popular blood in the Democratic Party And they're willing to take on the Democratic Socialists to make sure they have that popularity because they need it badly. And that means in 2028, America is going to be moving towards socialism. So are we going to see Senator AOC in 2024? Yes. Am I long-winded? Probably. So, but if you've made it this far, I thank you, and I hope you found that to be interesting and informative. The links will be in the description so that you can see the information for yourself and make up your own mind. But we look forward to hearing your comments about it. And we also look forward to seeing you every Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time when we do our live stream, speaking to you and everyone in the world, and looking forward to hearing your comments about the issues that matter to you.